What are your thoughts when you look at that question and think about what you know? What sorts of things are coming to mind? So I'm just going to give you a quick couple of minutes to jot down your initial thinking about that essential question.
What are your thoughts?
Sorry. All right, I'm just going to ask you to finish the thought you're on. I know that's not enough time to share all your thinking, but we're just sort of trying to dig in and see what's there at the front of our mind before we do some more learning. You can see on the note catcher that you'll have 2 more opportunities to return to your thinking around that essential question. Just a quick kind of behind the scenes moment. We love concentric circles as a way to keep our essential question front and center. So when you do this with students, you can make as many concentric circles as you want to help them build their understanding along the way, because each time they intentionally come back to that essential question, they're further building their understanding of it. So we're hoping that this strategy does the same for you today as you consider how you're thinking about resilience. All right, so we have 2 learning goals for our time together today. The first one is that educators will consider what the research says about resilience and why it's so critical. We want to ground ourselves in what the experts are saying. And then educators will participate in several resilience building strategies and consider how to help their students build resilience too. So we're hoping for some transfer time at the end so you can think about what these strategies might look like for those that you work with. Okay, so Elena Aguilar is the author of many books about coaching, and she's also the author of a book called Onward, which again is specifically about educator resilience. So she says, learning to be in the present moment without judging it boosts our resilience. It can allow us to feel accepting and clear-headed about our options for response. When we're fully present, we're more likely to find appropriate levity to moments of challenge and to relieve stress by finding humor in a situation. So our first activity that we're going to do is called Joy Collage, and it's a way for us to think about celebrations. And if you've done any work with the Idaho Coaching Network, we believe very strongly in celebrations and often start most of our meetings with the opportunity to share celebrations. So we're going to take a moment to think about being in the moment and what is it that makes us happy and brings us joy. So you can do this a couple of different ways. If you are in the workbook, this is on page 3. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it. So you've got empty space on yours. We've done this workshop twice already, so we've added a few images, but you're just going to think about what is it that brings you joy. You can do an image search really easily. Just go to insert image from the web, and it will bring up a space where you can type in whatever it is that makes you happy and joyful and insert that in. You can also draw. So if you want to do this analog style and just use your notebook, you can sketch out and write words to create that collage. Whatever is going to make the most sense to you and be useful is going to be awesome for our time together. So I'm not going to give you a real long time. I want you to pull those ideas right off the top of your head. What is bringing you joy? What are things that you can look for and celebrate in the moment? So if you're making a copy of the notebook I'm giving you, to delete our images out, make a copy for yourself, and then you can add those in, or you can draw those on your own. Let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a few minutes to work, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of time to share. great question in the chat. So when you're in your note catcher, if you come up to insert in your Google Slides, and then the first drop down there is image. And then when you scroll over, you have search the web, and that will bring up this, oh, well, I made it go away, but that will bring up your search. So insert image, search the web, and then you can type in whatever word you want, and that will bring up images for you to add. One of the cool things about this is it naturally brings up images that are free for use. So you don't have to worry about copyright issues with images that you're using when you pull them in that way. All right, let's take about 30 more seconds, knowing this isn't enough time for a full artistic collage experience, but hopefully enough time to pull a few images forward or even words that helped you in your thinking. All right, because we are a lovely small group, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and this will feel like we've just entered a breakout room together. So I'm going to ask us to do a little bit of sharing, and you have a couple of options. If you created something and you're like, I want to show this to people, then I think if things are going well, you could share your screen and we could see what you created. If you created something in front of you on like a piece of paper, you could hold it up and share that with us. Or if you wanted, you could just describe one or two of the images that you either did or wanted to put on your collage and tell us a little bit about why those bring you joy. So this is meant to be about a 5-minute breakout room. So everybody should have just a little bit of time to share one thing. And if this doesn't make you too uncomfortable, I'm just going to say somebody's name and let them share. And then we'll hopefully just make it through everybody. If that doesn't work for you, just let me know. And you can say pass now. That would be okay. All right. So let's start with, actually, Tammy, would you mind starting us off? Oh, I said that, and now I think she's frozen. Darn internet, right? Okay, let's do this. Marika, why don't you start us off, and then we'll come back around. Thank you.
Okay, so mine is on my computer because I'm on my laptop. So I'll just kind of show you. It's just to see here if I can make it go. There we go. Okay.
I like it.
So it's just a picture of a farm because we live out on a farm. And then my 3 daughters. So our 8-year-old, our 5-year-old, and our 3-year-old, and then a picture of my husband and I and myself, sorry, and our 3 little ones. So it brings me a lot of joy.
Oh, thanks, Marika. I also like that we got the view out the window. We like to get to see the picture and like the actual,
Yeah.
actual view. That's awesome. All right, Nicole, would you like to share?
So I'm not technologically savvy, so that I'm the one that can figure it out. But walking for me, I walk and we get by a canyon and I get to walk by the canyon. I don't walk up the canyon, I just walk with a view. And then my family and getting together with friends. So
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. All right, let's go with Stacy.
Do you want me to share my screen?
You can if you want, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to not because I'm not also. It's like I've also only done it once and it went horrible. Okay, so I have a picture of a book because I enjoy reading a lot, and that's something that I love doing. Then I have hiking. Most of these have to do with summer. I love summer and I'm excited for summer. So hiking, and then there's a lake because I enjoy going to the lake every summer. And then there's a table with lots of food on it because I love food. And that always brings me joy, and food always brings me good company and good food. And that's like one of my favorite things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Tammy, you're up, hopefully.
Yeah, okay. Gotta love the internet. I'm not going to share my screen just because I don't know what might happen. So I have a picture of a book, all the reading that I love to do, and a picture of biceps because I've been working on my muscles lately. And then I have a picture of the ocean because this summer my family is going to be going to the ocean, renting a house there. So that's just thinking about it brings me joy.
Thanks, Tammy. Rebecca, would you like to go?
Yeah, I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so I have a picture of chalk and coloring. My students and I like doing that, and I do it with my 3-year-old at home. And then I have pictures of the mountains and the beach because I am originally from Washington, and I miss it sometimes, but it brings me a lot of joy. The sun and the trees. I have a guitar in the middle of a field because it reminds me of country, and I grew up on a farm and I love country music. I graduated from Boise State last May, so I have BSU. Bros is my favorite, and then I thought this cat looked funny, so I liked it.
I love it. We love fun pictures that bring us joy. Lauren, are you in a space you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. So I just put my family because they're the most important thing to me. I have a dog, well, my family's dog because I love dogs. I also have a picture of a person sleeping because that's very important to me, is getting enough sleep. That's huge. And a picture of the outdoors because when it's getting warmer and sunnier, it makes me so much happier than when it's cold and dark in winter.
I hear you. I see other people nodding as well. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for taking an opportunity to do some sharing about things that are important to you and things that bring you joy. And sometimes those things go hand in hand. I heard a lot of you sharing about things that are important to you, people that are important to you. As we think about our joy collages, here's a challenge I'd like to leave you with, is that you have those images and ideas of things that make you happy somewhere where you can access them. So part of being able to remember that and to live in that moment is to have those things available. So whether those are image, like you could print that out and hang it up next to your desk or near your bedroom, or you could keep things around you that remind you of the things that bring you joy. But whatever you do, the more you can have that readily available front and center, the easier it is to access that in a time of need, to remember those things that bring you joy. Okay, so self-care and resilience. This comes from Elena Aguilar, and this is her definition about why resilience is important to us. So resilience is a way of being that allows us to bounce back quickly from adversity and stronger than before so we can fulfill our purpose in life. Why we need resilience is because toxic stress first manifests as decreased productivity and escalates to more serious symptoms such as anxiety, disassociation, frustration, and eventually burnout. So one thing I want us to remember is when she gathered this research and did this work, it's specifically for educators. So I feel like as you look at that list of kind of hard words to read, we've experienced moments of that or shades of that or seen that in others. And so the work that we think about when we think about building our resilience is to help us be the educators that we want to be when we get to be our best selves. So how do we do this? The good news is that resilience can be cultivated through engaging in specific habits and by fostering specific dispositions. So part of what we do is really strategically and intentionally work on things to build our own personal resilience. Okay, so we're going to take a moment to read what's called the Resilience Manifesto. And this is in your notebook, and I will also share my screen since we're in a group together. And we're going to read it, and it's going to talk to us about principles and commitments about resilience that we want to think about. So we'll read it together so we can all hear it at the same time. But then on your own, I'm going to ask you to do some thinking about how you are connecting to the text. Specifically, we're going to think about what challenges our thinking, what changes our thinking, or what confirms our thinking around resilience. So this is in your workbook on page 4. You'll see the Resilience Manifesto there at the top. Get my zoom back so we can see it easily. So we're just going to take some time to read this, and then we're going to go through and talk about those ideas. So down here at the bottom, you have some sticky notes that you can type your thoughts in, or you can just do this in a notebook alongside your work. So if you don't want to work with the technology, you can just type, or you just can handwrite things that challenge you, things that change your thinking, and things that confirm your thinking. If you're working in the document, you can do some highlighting, which can sometimes be helpful to pull those ideas forward. So I'm going to go ahead. I might just read this just to save us a little bit of time, and then you can do all the thinking while it's being read to you. But again, you're just thinking about what is challenging you, changing you, and confirming that thinking. So this is from Elena Aguilar as well. And this says it's a manifesto, or a manifesto is a public declaration of principles and intentions. And may these principles guide our individual and collective commitment to resilience. So number 1, a wellspring of resilience is inside us. We are stronger than we think. Number 2, we were born with individual and collective resilience. Our quest is to find our way to these internal springs and nurture them. Number 3, we cultivate resilience so that we can thrive, not simply to prevent burnout or survive. Number 4, resilience is cultivated through daily habits and thoughts that strengthen dispositions. Number 5, it is a human right to explore and express emotions. Number 6, to help children build their emotional intelligence and resilience, we must simultaneously tend to our own emotional intelligence and resilience. Powerful and effective educators talk about emotions at work. 8, how we interpret events and tell our story matters most. In our interpretation, we exercise the freedom to choose our attitude. Number 9, we are all connected and responsible for each other. Caring for the other is caring for the self. And number 10, we cultivate our resilience and become stronger so that we can help others become stronger. We cultivate our resilience so that we have energy to heal and transform the world. All right, so I'm going to give you just a moment if you wanted to just listen that first time to maybe glance back through what we read and think about what is something that challenged, changed, or confirmed what you already knew about resilience. So I'll see if I can fit most of that on the screen. So challenge, changed, or confirmed. Take a moment to write down your thinking. All right, let's take about 30 seconds and finish up where you are. All right, so we're going to be back to a breakout room that we're already in. You didn't even have to travel anywhere and try to stay connected. But I'd like to hear, I'd like for us to share with the group some of the things that you're thinking. So feel free to think about, of the 3 things you wrote down or the 3 categories you wrote, what's one thing that you want to share with the group? And I'll let you decide, and I will let you choose when you want to go. So if you want to unmute and share what's something that either challenged, changed, or confirmed your thinking.
Emily, I'll go first. So I said from our challenge was powerful educators talk about emotions at work. And I always feel like sometimes as educators, we feel like we have to be like this embodiment of perfectness and that we know all the answers and we know these things and we don't want to make mistakes in front of our students and or in front of other teachers or whatever. And so that was really good to hear powerful educators talk about emotions at work, because I think it's good for kids to hear like, I'm frustrated today, or today I'm tired, or this is hard, and that they can see us model our emotions so that they can also do that in their own lives.
Thank you.
I'll go. So for mine, I think something that kind of changes how I feel and challenges me is number 5 and number 7. And part of it is just because we're coming off such a year of contentious relationships just nationwide that it's hard. Sometimes you just feel like you can't fully say what you want to say, or even if a coworker is not fully completing their job, which affects your job. It's just, I feel like a lot of people are on edge right now. And so I feel like you have to really craft your language when you're approaching even students too. And so I think that just realizing that, like, no, it is important to address issues and to give your point of view and to feel safe in that. It was good to see that written down.
Thanks, Marika.
I'll go. I like the emotions part too. I've only been teaching for 7 years. I didn't start till I was 45. So And I used to think that everybody did everything, that, you know, every time you went to a meeting, that, oh, they're all doing this except me. And then you find out everybody's feeling the same way. They're not all doing everything, you know, so that is important. And being stronger than you think. I hesitate to bring this up, but practically the whole time I've been teaching, my husband has been fighting cancer. And I truly believe you are stronger than you think. So, but you know what? It's been a part of our life for forever. So anyway, but and teaching gets my mind on that. So that's what I love about teaching.
Thanks, Nicole.
I wrote down that we have permission to feel, that just confirms that idea for me. And just being able to not necessarily, my job isn't to maybe understand a child's emotions or to judge them, but my job is to validate them. And so that was just a good confirmation.
Tammy.
Yeah, I agree with the emotions part. Like I said, I graduated last year in May, so this is my first year teaching, and it has been very emotional. And my principal is hilarious, but he makes fun of me for crying a lot, and I'm like, well, that's just what I do. And then I have, you know, some like my mentor and a few other teachers saying crying is okay. And he's just, you know, he doesn't understand. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But one thing that I learned, I actually cried in front of my students one day after a huge behavior happened. We had several room clears that day already. And so I cried in front of them. And I was like, I think a calming strategy that will help me right now is if we just all color. And so I was trying to teach them that, like, it's okay to cry, and even I cry. And so I model that from time to time. And my mentor and I have talked about, my class is one of those classes where you have to be calm. Otherwise, like if you're fun, then they go a level higher than you. And if you're frustrated, they go even more frustrated than you. So it's hard to stay calm and still model those emotions at the same time. But it's really important to me, since I teach first grade, like they need to know how to manage those emotions. I mean, I'm only 22 and I'm still trying to manage my own emotions. And I'm the youngest person on my staff. And so I say all the time, I'm still growing up. Like, my brain's not even fully developed. So I don't know what to tell you. I'll cry and I'll get mad, and that's just how it is.
Thanks, Rebecca. Lauren, do you want to share?
Yeah. So I like again, just like almost everyone else, the emotions thing as well. I think it kind of toxic if in the school environments, teachers try to put up a front of being super tough. And I mean, yeah, for lack of a better word, tough. And other teachers think that they have totally everything put together, and that makes the other teachers sometimes feel bad, and then the students don't feel connected to the teacher, kind of. So I think it's perfectly fine to feel feelings. Yeah, it's important for connection to your coworkers and to your students.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. I always find it really fascinating when people in a group cue in to some of the same things, and you feel you can make that connection with each other. What I really love about the Resilience Manifesto is sometimes when we talk about self-care, it sounds really specifically like, and I need to have like my chocolate ready and maybe a bubble bath and I got to drink some water, and that is how I take care of myself. And when we talk about resilience, which is a form of self-care, there's a bigger context for what we're trying to do. And it builds in all the parts of being a human and how to be a human that can withstand all of these kinds of challenges that we're going to experience, because we're all here experiencing this, this world and this life together. Okay, so let's get back. So we are going to take a quick return to our essential questions. So you've had an opportunity to do a little celebrating with a joy collage, and you just read the Resilience Manifesto and heard the people in our group speak. So you're going to now be in this second space, or you can do a second response if you're just doing this in a notebook. But what are you thinking now in terms of our essential question? How do we build resilience in ourselves and our students? All right, I'm gonna have you bring that thinking to a close. All right, we're gonna go fairly quickly through 3 specific strategies of things that we can do to help us build our resilience, or that we can use to teach others and help them to build their resilience. So this first one says specifically about the habit of taking care of yourself, which we were just talking about briefly. Elena says physical self-care and well-being are foundational for many of the other habits. When your body is cared for, you're better able to deal with emotions. Resilient people have a healthy self-perception, are committed to taking care of themselves, and accept themselves more or less as they are. So if we can make our own physical self feel good, it's a lot easier to work through some of the harder things. And I like the intentionality behind that. So we're going to do a little bit of brainstorming. So if you are in your workbook, you can also just brainstorm these in a notebook. But if you want to work in the notebook, you're going to see each of the categories and some bullet points for you to list ideas around those categories. I'm going to go pretty quick. So you might just get one thing in each category, and that is okay. If I am going slow because you're a super fast thinker, you can just move ahead because you have all the categories in your note catcher. But you're going to think about in each of these categories, what's maybe one thing that you could do differently or do better to help strengthen your own personal self-care. So sometimes it's a habit you have, but you can tell it's a habit that you might want to focus a little bit more on. So our first category is sleep. So we know when we're well rested, we are better able to do all the things. So think about 1 or 2 things that you could do specifically to help you get more healthy sleep. All right, your second category is moving your body. Your third category is eating healthfully to fuel your body. Fourth category is organizing your space. Your fifth category is trying something new. Sometimes for this one, I want to say like browse the library section, like nonfiction section, and see if there's something I can mark. Starting to get browsing back in libraries, so that might be an option again soon. That one went fast. Something you could do around reflection and gratitude. Doing what you love. As educators, your summer is coming up in not too long. Always gives you the most opportunity to do what you love. How about connecting with others? And then finally, we have art and creativity. All right, hopefully you have several things on your list, even if you didn't get anything. Some categories, sometimes I'm like, oh, I just can't come up with anything. That's okay. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna narrow our list to a few things, and we're gonna actually set some goals to help this move forward, help us move forward with these goals in the coming weeks or months. So you're going to take a look at the list that you brainstormed, and I want you to highlight 3 things that you're like, yes, this needs to be top of my list. So whether it's something in the sleep category, or maybe it's art and creativity, or connecting with others, what are 3 things that you want to think about and set some goals? We're going to list some action steps. And then we're going to add those action steps to our calendar, because nothing happens if it stays on a note catcher in Google Drive. But I bet it will happen if a reminder pops up on your phone. So if you are in your note catcher, this is at the bottom of the page. So you have some space here to write in your 3 goals. And then there's a space here to list a few action steps. And then your device is probably near you. And you can add a couple of reminders to your phone. So take a moment to pick. We might not get through 3. You might get through 1 or 2. But start with 1. What's a goal you want to work toward? What steps do you need to take to make that happen? And then you can physically add it to a calendar or add a reminder in your phone to help ensure you get to make that happen. All right, let's take a little bit to finish the goal that you're on. If you got through one goal, that is awesome. If you got through 2 or 3 goals, that's kind of amazing, but we want at least one. And now you have a brainstorm list of things to move on to. So finish up where you are. And then if you feel comfortable, I'd love to just see in the chat maybe what the goal is that you set. You don't need to share all of it, but if you had a goal that you feel okay sharing in the chat, what are we working toward in the next couple of weeks? What are you guys excited about? What are you going to try? See writing in a journal on Sundays. Take the things to the youth ranch. Yes, I like to just gather them at the bottom of the stairs. Hope they magically disappear one day. Exercising consistently in the morning. I love that specificity of the timing. All right. Okay, so strategy 1 is thinking about the areas of your life where we want to take care of ourselves, and we set specific goals to pick one thing to work on in the next couple of weeks. Oh, going for a walk on your prep. Yes. It's hard to get in the habit of doing that sometimes when it's easy to sit down and start doing work. All right, so our next strategy falls under the category of building a community. So Elena says, we are social beings and we need each other to thrive. A strong, healthy community can bolster us through challenging moments and bring joy to our lives. When we build community, we can build empathy for each other, and building empathy for each other helps us to build community. So what we're going to look at today is a strategy called a corsage of community. So I'm going to take you through the steps, and then I can show you what it looks like in the workbook, or you're welcome to just draw this on a piece of paper. I think it's actually easier to draw on a piece of paper, but if you're working digitally and you want everything in one space, then that would be a good place for you. So you're going to envision a flower, and you're going to envision yourself in the center of it. So you can draw a little picture of yourself or a sketch or put your name there. That's you in the middle. Each petal that builds around the flower are the people in your personal life or in your community who support you. And you can add as many petals as you need. So let's start there, and then I'm going to have you add to it. So you have in your workbook, I like because people did this earlier. We have fun people in here already. Oh, look, I'm in somebody's community. So your picture can go in the center, and then around the edges, there are these petals that you can type into, and extra petals as needed. But as I go back here to our directions, your first layer are the people that are in your personal life or in your professional community that support you. So go ahead and put yourself in the center of your flower and get that first ring of petals to represent people in your personal or professional community who support you. All right, if you're still there, that's okay, but I'm going to give you a second layer. Actually, I'm going to give you all the layers so you can see as we go. You can add a few more petals if you're running out of space, but I want you to think about who would you like to add to your support network? So you have the people that are already there, but who do you want to add? It could be a specific person. Like you could think of like, there's somebody in my building I want to get to know. I want to add them to my community. Or it could be a type of person. So in your life, do you need more people that are positive influences on you? Do you need somebody that's supportive when you're needing a supportive listening ear? So it can be a kind of person or an actual person. One thing that you can consider is you can add people you don't actually know. So I was looking at Jackie's corsage that she created. She put Brene Brown on there. We're not personally friends, but I would say Brene Brown is a pretty big part of my community. She is teaching me on the daily. So if you're thinking of actual gurus in your world that are influencing you and teaching you, those are excellent people to add to your community. And so we're continuing to add people that are already in the community and people we want to be there. All right, let's take about 30 minutes to finish 30 minutes. I don't know where we are in the world. Let's take 30 seconds to finish up adding those petals to your flower. And then I'm going to ask you to use the chat again to share some of that thinking in or with the rest of us. So if you want to put in a name or a couple of names or the kinds of people you're wanting to add to your community, but what's something you wrote on a petal that you would be able to share with us in the chat so we can kind of see and celebrate those names or people together. Love it. Brene Brown, Bob Goff, Christy Mraz. Heard Tammy talk a lot about those people. As we create and do several of these resilience building activities, a lot of it comes down to taking the time to intentionally think about what we already have. So as we think about this community that you've already been building, to be able to name them and to think about the impact that they have on you and the work that you do, that makes you more resilient to be reminded that you do have that connection. If you ended up adding more people that you didn't know to your corsage of community, then that shows you where you might want to reach out and start making some more connections. Sisters, more connections with our brothers. I like it. Okay, so we're going to move on to this third strategy. This is one of my favorites. This one's called Tell Empowering Stories. This is the category of resilience. So Elena says, how you interpret and make sense of events is a juncture point where emotional resilience increases or depletes. You make the choice about what story to tell. When you tell empowering stories, your optimism may expand, and optimism is a key trait of resilient people. So for this activity, we're going to do a little bit of reframing. And so this is a pretty simple strategy that you could do at any point. You don't always have to write everything down, but you can say this in your head. But we're going to change our have tos into some want tos. So this reframing technique takes things that all of us have to do, but gives you a moment to think about what about that is powerful and can you connect to in a positive way. So for example, for this we could think about, I have to grade essays, right? If you're a secondary teacher, English teacher especially, you're going to have essays to grade, and that's not the most fun part of the job that you get to do. There's a lot of work there. But rather than setting yourself in that complaining mode or that that negative space, we can reframe it with a want to. So we could say, I want to see what my students have learned and be able to provide them feedback to move forward. So we're taking something that we have to do that might not be fun and awesome and putting that spin on it to remind us kind of the why behind it. So grading isn't fun. Being able to see what my students know and how to help them to move forward, that's really powerful. And that's where I want to put my focus and my attention. So if you are using your workbook note catcher, you're going to be on page 7. And there's just a couple of quick spaces here for you to do some writing. Or again, you can just do this writing in your notebook. But you're going to list something you have to do. So you can think of something coming up this weekend, something coming up in the week ahead. And how are you going to reframe that from a have to into a want to? How are we going to change our thinking there? So I'll give you just a moment to try to get 1 or 2 examples down. All right, let's take about 20 seconds and finish where you are. All right, and we're going to do a little bit of sharing. Actually, I'm going to move us into 2 breakout rooms so everybody has enough time to do some sharing. And we have a couple of things that we can share about. So we shared some ideas in the chat, but you didn't actually get to share about that actual resilience activity. So when you get into your breakout room, you can share about any of the resilience activities that you would like. So you can share what you did. You can share what you were thinking. We always like to put up here in our ideas for sharing out, like, how did doing that make you feel? Was there a connection or something that you were learning from that? Or did you have a spark of an idea of how you might want to use a strategy like this in the future? So there's a lot there that you could share about. We'll be in the breakout room for 5 minutes. So you have enough time, hopefully, for everybody to have a chance to share whatever it is that's on your mind that you'd like to share and discuss with the group. So I'm going to send 3 of you into a breakout room, and I'm going to keep 3 of you here. Our recording doesn't work in a breakout room today, so nobody understands anything, but that's how that is happening. So, so I'll send 3 of you away, 3 of you will stay, and then in 5 minutes we'll come back together and finish up. So, all right, off you go. There you go. I'll just be quiet and hang out and let you guys have your conversation.
Well, hi, I'm Tammy.
Hello, Tammy. I'm Stacy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Lauren. Stacy, I work for your sister, by the way.
I assumed.
Okay.
I had your last class and I was like, that's the same lady. I'm pretty sure they all work together. Yeah.
So one of the things that I shared or I noted,
You work with Kimberly also, not just Emily. Oh, I'm so
That's
many
okay.
sisters. I'm so sorry.
that was specific, so it's all right. It's okay. I was working on reframing our stories, and this weekend I really need to finish a PD toolkit that I'm working on, and I've been working on it for months, and it seems like I should be further along than I am. But so instead of just saying I have to finish my PD toolkit, I want to create a powerful and engaging PD for educators. So there you go. I know it's going to be just fine, but I don't like to push things. I didn't push things off, but it seems like I did because it's due and I'm not as far along as I'd like to be. So anyways, that's one thing that I tried today.
Mine was that we have to review content for a standardized test, which I loathe review. I don't know why I hate reviewing, but I always hate reviewing because do I make it fun? Do I not make it fun? Do I make them work? It's just this battle I feel like with them. And so I changed it to, I want my students to be successful in their testing. So hopefully that change of mindset will change how review goes this week.
What grade do you teach?
I teach 5th grade, so they're taking all 3 of the tests. I take science, ELA, and math. It's fine.
I wonder how that would work with just my brain went to reframing their stories. I wonder if they have stories about taking this test. Like, I have to take this test. What might it sound like for them if they were to do it individually,
That's a good idea. It probably would sound like I have to take this test because people hate me. That's usually why they ask me. They're like, why do you not like us? And I'm like, it's because I like you that you get to do these things.
That's really good, Emily, that I get to show what I know. So next week is our ISAT week too. And I'm not super excited about it. Well, like schedules get all mixed up and then the kids are like dead after. And anyway, it's a whole thing. But I think it would be maybe a good like activity to see how the kids could reframe their own opinions of doing the ISAT tests. Because I know that they're not excited either. But it'll be fine. Yeah, they get to show what they know. That was really good.
It is like Stacy mentioned the word like mindset, and sometimes it's just a way to trigger your brain into thinking about it differently, which seems like that could be really powerful to share with students so they don't enter the test being like, I hate this. I hate that I have to do it. It's hard. It's scary, whatever that story may be. And if they can tell themselves a story of power, that puts them in a mindset of being in a good place. And hopefully they get a mint and a story of power. A good combination.
We are giving them mints. That's what the school's giving them. They get 2 mints. It's like, great.
Yeah, they always get candy. And I remember I grew up in Idaho and doing the ISAT, we would always get like a piece of candy like in the middle of the test. It's actually very helpful. It's something it's like a little thing to look forward to and something that during something that really isn't fun at all.
One of the transfer ideas that I had was for my first graders when I was thinking about the joy collage um, offering them an opportunity to create their own joy collage and then put it in a prevalent place where they're going to see it a lot and refer to it, especially if a friend is having an emotional moment or what have you. But I even wonder for your kids who are doing this test, could they make a joy collage and then take it with them? And when they're having a moment where they're super frustrated, maybe that, provides them some relief. I don't know. Just comment.
That's a really good idea. I like that.
Like a joy collage on a note card, right? Like if that's about the space that you have next to your device. Things to think about. Welcome back, group 2. Hopefully you had a lovely conversation and got to share some learning with one another. As we bring our time to a close, I want to give us just a moment to do a really specific transfer. So I know because you're an educator, your brain this whole time has been thinking, is there anything I can use in my classroom from what I'm learning today? Because that is what educators do when they learn things. But I want to give you a moment to intentionally think about that and to maybe jot some ideas down. So one thing that you can think about is, are there any strategies you're doing now that help your students cultivate their resilience? And it could be that you're doing things that you didn't know you were doing. So sometimes when we learn a little bit more about resilience, we notice things we do that actually does help our students. We just maybe didn't know how to name it that way. But when you take that moment to name it, you give it the power and intentionality that it needs. And then the second thing to think about is there one strategy or maybe two that you learned today that you could implement with your students? And what specifically might that look like? So depending on the age group you have or the kinds of students you have, what's something you could use to work with them? Or did we do something that sparked another idea and that's what you're writing down? So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to see if there's anything you can already name that you're doing, or and one thing that you're taking with you. All right, when you are ready, I'm going to take us back one more time to our essential question. How do we build resilience in ourselves and our students? You have one more space to write in. So whether you're in this note catcher or whether you're in your notebook, what are you thinking now? So you've gone through several pretty simple resilience building activities. You've had some conversations and some time to think. So what's your response now? How has your thinking grown? right, take about 30 seconds and finish up where you are. All right, we're going to end our time together with what we like to call silent appreciations. So I'm just going to share some words with you and give you a chance to do some silent appreciating and send those vibes out into our universe. So while we do this, you're welcome to turn your camera off or just close your eyes. But this is all going to happen silently for you, and you just need to listen as we go along. So get yourself in a space that feels conducive. All right, so to start with, I want you to take a moment and appreciate yourself and what it took for you to be here today on a Saturday, giving up a full day of time for your own learning. I'd like you to appreciate someone who made it possible for you to be here today. This could be someone who is sacrificing time with you or somebody who is supporting you specifically in this work. Take some time to appreciate someone who pushed your thinking today, whether in a breakout room or from a presenter. Appreciate someone who made you smile or laugh. Appreciate someone with whom you feel more connection with after your time today. Stretch a little further and appreciate a student or a colleague who gives you purpose in the work that you do. Finally, as always, we want you to know how much we appreciate you and the effort it is to be somewhere learning on a Saturday, but also the effort that you put in every day in the classroom for the work you do with students, for the work you do for yourself, and the work you do in supporting colleagues. You are amazing. We're so lucky to have you as part of our learning community, and I hope you have a grand rest of the day. You've got one more session that should start in just a little bit. You have a 10-minute break. But thank you so much for being here with me. It was lovely to see you, to meet those of you that I haven't seen before. And I wish you the best of luck. And then the next few weeks, you are almost there, right? Almost May and June. All right. Have a lovely rest of the conference. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Tammy.